All right, welcome back. Well, now we have with us, as promised, Vernice Armour, the first African-American combat pilot in U.S. military history.
Vernice, it's such an honor to have you on our show.
Thank you. I have to throw female in there because there'd probably be a lot of Tuskegee Airmen upset with me.
That's
but
right.
It's been an interesting journey.
Yeah. Well, tell me about the road to becoming, to achieving this.
Well, I actually started out wanting to be a law enforcement officer when I was a kid, about 3 or 4, and I wanted to ride a horse downtown, mounted patrol. So towards that goal, when I entered college, I was looking for something that would prepare me for that dream, and I like to call it preparing for your passion. And I saw a flyer in the student union, and it said free trip to Mardi Gras. I was like, wow, that's for me. And I didn't say vacation. You had to join the women's rifle team. But what it did was open my eyes to another venue, which was the military, that I felt could prepare me for my law enforcement career, because you couldn't become a police officer until you were 21. So I actually enlisted in the Army when I was 19 and ended up getting involved in the Army ROTC program. And there I saw a black female in a flight suit. And again, the seed was planted and the eyes were open. I was like, wow, that's cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, so I became a police officer, but I never forgot the image. So I went back and said, hey, why not? Marine Corps was for me because I wanted the toughest challenge there was, and ended up making history in the meantime, even though the goal was just to do something to go back and help my community with, community outreach.
So tell us about your military experience. Were they tough on you?
Absolutely. And I wouldn't expect anything less.
Yeah.
They're tough on everybody, especially the Marine Corps. People up outside, don't want to think about it, but the Marine Corps is known for being the tough and the infantry and the first to fight, first hitting the beaches. And rightfully so, the training has to be hard because you are going into those combat situations where you have to be on your A game. And if you're not thinking about those decisions and you make that mistake, then lives are on the line.
Sure. Now, when you were in the Marines, right? You had all these other pilots that were training at the same time, and you had other females that were training at the same time, right?
Yes.
Why did they pick you to be the first, African American female combat pilot?
Well, they didn't pick me. I just ended up being the first to join the Marine Corps that wanted to fly a combat aircraft. So no other black female had completed flight school before me, flying my aircraft. And then Iraq came around in 2003, so I was also in a combat situation. Now, a lot of people say, why is it the new millennium and we're just now having the first? Well, legislation didn't change for women in combat until the early mid-90s.
Okay.
So 91, women weren't eligible to fly in combat.
Now, I was reading a little bit about you on the internet, and I see that you were one of the top people, or the top person in your class, in the combat class, right?
Correct.
Tell me about that. I mean, how did you achieve that? How many people were in the class?
12 Marines were in my class, and about 22 total, maybe 22 to 30 total flight students that earned their wings that time. But people kid me, but I did want to fly jets when I first joined the Marine Corps. And out of primary, they switched down 2 different pipelines, either jets or helicopters, or C-130s, which are transport. But I was looking at jets and helos. Wanted jets. I was 4th ranked after that session. The top 2 slots were jets. So the top 2 guys that had jet scores got jets. I was number 4. Said that will not happen again. So I was basically just driven when I went to advanced, which is the final phase of flight school. And I said, the number 1 guy gets his pick, and I'm going to be number 1. So
that was it.
Cut out a little of the partying and studied a lot more and made it happen.
Sure.
So who was your role model going through all the military training?
I didn't have a pilot per se. So it's, the Bessie Coleman's, the Amelia Earhart's, the women who've gone before me just in the realm of flight, absolutely. But role models for me, I look at leadership and integrity and honesty, and I absolutely have to go back to my dads. I have 2. Some people don't have any. I was blessed with 2. So my stepdad passed away last year, and he was a Marine. Oh, thank you. But he was a Marine in Vietnam, 2 tours on a 46, which is the double rotor aircraft that transports the troops. And my grandfather was actually a Marine as well, and he entered the Marine Corps back when it was segregated, and it was called Mumford Point. and Marines had to go to a separate place to get trained, and it's actually the third boot camp of the Marine Corps. A little known fact, not many people know about it. They think there's only two, Paris Island and San Diego, but there was a third from 1942 to 1948.
Now, when you were a little girl growing up playing with Barbie dolls, did you ever think you would end up being a combat fighter pilot?
I actually did not play with Barbie dolls.
Really? Bratz dolls.
I played with Tonka trucks and climbed trees. I had a very active childhood. I had 3 brothers, and we were always outside, climbing trees, playing in the pool, discovering. That was our big thing. Everybody would jump on their horses and go discover. It was about adventure and the journey, not. And I've taken that into adult life as well. I'm not looking for retirement. It's really the journey of life and what legacy am I going to leave.
Okay, great. And you know what? I think we have a clip, so let's go take a look.
Who wants to be average? Do what average people do, you'll have what average people have. I don't want to be average, do you? I was in the hospital, and there was another Marine there. He said he was in Najaf. Talked about being bombarded with mortars, and there was a Cobra came in, shot a missile. We paired it up, and it was one of the missions that I went on. It was like, wow, you probably saved my life.
Wow, that was pretty cool.
That was wonderful.
That was
you
neat.
are one cool lady.
That's true.
You're my idol.
Not everybody gets to fly 10 feet off the desert floor.
Yeah,
It was
that's
a little higher than 10 feet, but exciting nonetheless.
Yeah, but I would need a doggy bag because I get like motion sickness.
You'd be all right. You'd be all right.
I don't know. I don't know.
Now, did you have any flight experience before you went into the military? I mean, did you fly airplanes at all or helicopters?
I was a passenger on Southwest and United quite a few times since the age of 6.
More peanuts, please.
Right. But after well, you don't join the Marines, you become a Marine.
Okay.
So after I became a Marine and I knew I had that pilot slot to go to flight school, I actually was a part of the President's Squadron down in Quantico, Virginia, his helicopter squadron. And while I was there's also a civilian aero club that's located on the air facility. And I completed about 20 hours in a Cessna 152, just to kind of, again, preparing for that passion to get me geared up to do well in flight school.
Is that fun? Flying Cessna?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It
I've got some hours
great.
in the Cessna. So.
My last flight was my solo. The 3 touch and goes, or you're in the plane all by yourself. You're in control of the throttle, how high, how low, and just making those radio calls. It's a very freeing and humbling experience.
Were you ever afraid at any point, like jumping out of planes or anything like that?
Well, I haven't ever jumped out of a plane.
Okay.
But I'm sure there are times where I had more anxiety than others, but when you're in those moments where it is intense and you are focused, fear doesn't really have a chance to creep in because you rely so much on your training. And that's what you go back to, and that's why your troops are training so hard every day here in the States. Because when they go to Iraq or Afghanistan or anywhere else abroad, Djibouti, Africa, you have to rely on that muscle memory, just like a dancer or a football player. When the moment is there and it's intense, you do what you've been trained to do.
I tell you what, this is awesome. This is awesome having you on the show here.
Okay.
Well, we're gonna have to take a break, and we'll be right back from top of the World Trade Center, top of the morning.
Don't touch that remote. Welcome back. We're here with our guest, Vernice Armour, the first African-American female combat pilot.
Wow. So we were just talking a second ago, and you said that you never jumped out of a plane.
Correct.
Don't they teach you that in your military training? Isn't that like a big part of it?
Well, we actually get a little bit of parachute training,
Okay.
but it's where you're pulled behind a truck, kind of like parasailing, but you're not in the water, and you have to run until you take enough lift where you're lifted up in the air and you learn how to land. But as a helicopter pilot, we never go through any other training after that. Because with a helicopter you don't jump out.
Oh, really?
It's kind of like the captain of a ship. You go down with the plane, but you're not going down. Even if your engines were to cut off at 10,000 feet, there's a maneuver called an auto rotation. Now, have you ever been driving down the highway and stuck your hand out the window and turned it
Sure. Yeah.
where it's flat and it cuts through the air? You turn it up and wind kicks your hand back.
Yeah.
Well, in a helicopter, in different models, it varies on the distance from the ground, but at a certain point from the ground, you pull the nose back a little and you pull up on what we call the collective, which changes the pitch of the blades, and it does that same thing where it catches the wind and it cushions you just enough where you can slow down enough to slide onto
Okay.
the ground.
So if you're flying your helicopter and let's say you're like 2,000 feet and your engine just dies, the helicopter just doesn't fall to the ground.
Correct.
It,
Now, you do have to have forward airspeed, because if you're up here, it's just a rock. You're
Okay.
not gliding.
Uh-huh.
But the helicopter actually does have a little bit of gliding capability, assuming that you have enough forward airspeed or you're high enough to where you can drop the nose to get that forward airspeed to successfully handle that maneuver.
That's pretty
Wow,
interesting.
that's great. So do you still fly on occasion?
I am not flying right now, but I'm going to be joining a club in the D.C. area, teaching youth how to fly, donating my time back as an instructor.
Oh, that's
Oh,
great.
what
Yeah.
club?
Cloud Club 2. It's actually southeast of the D.C. area.
That's wonderful.
Now, what are you going to be flying them in?
152s and 172s. Yeah, they're just learning, starting out, getting situated in the aircraft, and working their way up to their private pilot's license.
And folks, if you happen to hear some voices in the background, we have some tours going on in the background here at the top of the World Trade Center in beautiful downtown Baltimore.
It's always an active place to be. Lots of people looking around and just enjoying the view of downtown Baltimore.
Vernice, we're so happy to have you. And you know what? I think we have another clip, so let's take a look at that.
What's it like flying a Cobra gun ship? Easy questions, like a roller coaster without limits. It's awesome. Once the zero come out and open up the birds for us, like, quick. Okay, right now we're just doing a thorough pre-flight of the aircraft before we go take off.
Loose?
Got some loose? Yeah. You have to do it every single time you fly, without a doubt. Yeah, just tighten it. Even if you're going to sit on the deck and just turn the rotors just to check the engine, you have to do a pre-flight. Tell you, when we put the helmet on, it's game on, it's game day. Every decision is a critical decision. If you do the wrong thing, come down the wrong way, someone could get hurt. From the maintainer that turns the screw, to the guy who fixes our radios, to the pilots who fly it.
It's internal to the flight.
You're a part of that big green machine. You're making a difference.
Valley.
Training is essential. You're on the fly, boom, you get called, you go out, you don't have time to look in your tactical manual. You have to know it. And you have to be able to flip those switches and shoot that gun and get that missile off the rail.
Cleared hot, Viper.
To save someone's life that's on the ground.
Viper 32 and 350. Vision friendly, contact mark telling you target. Viper 32, point level. Viper 32, cleared hot.
Train like you fight. When we come out here, we're not looking to water things down. Air crew have to fly in different environments. We do it daytime, we do it night. Doesn't matter if it's raining, doesn't matter if it's overcast. We're still going to fly the mission.
And roger that, you're approved to the BP.
For the folks on the ground, they need to be able to operate with the wind blowing as you see we have around us. We need to come out here and actually bring it on, get as much as we can get, and continue with the training.
Being a pilot is definitely physically demanding. You get mentally fatigued. If your body gets very tired as well, then now you have two things working against you. You know, I'm really into the weights and the lifting, and I used to want to be a bodybuilder when I was a kid, but it's okay, I'm a Marine.
Well, that was great. That was great. Some great news clips you had there, and some great clips of being on other shows.
Thank you.
So tell me, you've been in the Marines as a combat pilot, and you did fly actually in wartime.
Right.
Okay. Tell me about some of those experiences.
They were pretty hectic when you're in the midst of combat, but like I said, you know, you fall back on your training and your leadership skills and just your basic navigation and piloting skills that the Marine Corps has taught you. But one instance in particular, and I love to share this story because for me it's just an absolute blessing, but we were in Najaf, and it was the Battle of Najaf in the cemetery. I'm not sure if you remember the insurgents in the cemetery advancing towards the Imam Ali Shrine. And some Marines and soldiers were pinned down. They didn't have anything to shoot the target with. They were pinned down by indirect fire, which are rockets that are lobbed over, not directly, you know, shot. And they needed some air support. They called us in, and we were able to take out the building, and they were able to proceed on with their mission. When we got back to base, everything was great. They were proceeding on. But 4 months later, I was in the hospital just for routine stuff, talking to a Marine, and he had shrapnel in his leg. I was like, oh, when were you deployed? And he said he was on the 11th MEU. I said, hey, I'm on the 11th MEU. I was your air support. I was a Cobra pilot. It's like, oh, that's cool. And he talks about this mission where a helicopter came in and shot a missile, destroying the building that was targeting them. And, of course, I got excited. I'm like, yeah, that was me. But then he's just standing there.
Wow.
And I was talking to the Marine and excited, as you can probably imagine that. Here I'm thinking this was the same mission, but he's just looking at me. And he said, ma'am, you saved my life.
Wow.
Yeah, and for me, that's why we're there. That's why it's so hard. That's why the training, you know, Marines, they say we're dedicated, hardworking, anal, but it's because we have to be. Because lives are, again, they're at stake. And I'm just blessed to have been able to go over, do my job, and help the guys and women out on the ground, as well as everybody in the air coming back safely.
That's a wonderful story. So tell us, after you got back from Iraq and, you know, finished up your military work, how did you get into your next phase of your life, which is doing this professional speaking?
Well, it's actually something, again, that I've wanted to do for a very long time. It kind of plays into the law enforcement train, where I wanted to give something back to my society or my community. And with the speaking, when I was in junior high, I'd go back to my elementary school. When I was in high school, I'd go back to elementary school and junior high. And when I became a police officer, I was still working in the community. And when I became a Marine, I said, okay, well, you know, how is this going to play into it? And I'm deployed all the time. But since leaving the Marine Corps in August of '07, motivational speaking and professional speaking on leadership, teamwork, safety, cockpit risk management has really been an outlet for me. When I was a kid, they called me 20 questions, and my mom said, Vernice, don't your lips get tired? No! But and she told that story in front of my friends, by the way. But talking and sharing has always been something that I've loved to do, and motivating others and saying, hey, just do it. And I've tried to live that way in my life. When I wanted to be a cop, you know, I did it. When I wanted to join the Army, I did it. When I wanted to join the Marine Corps, I said, hey, life is short, why not? And people might have said, Vernice, pick one thing, settle down. But again, why? There's so much that life offers, and I want to give that message back, especially to our youth. But in corporate America and other organizations, we can use that message there as well.
Sure.
Now, were you on the debate team growing up? Like little Miss
No, I
Chatterbox?
wasn't.
No?
I played trombone in the marching band, volleyball, basketball, softball. So I was an outdoorsy kind of person, to say the least.
You were a tomboy.
Absolutely. And probably could still say that today, but it's all about having fun. I just learned how to surf a couple years ago. So,
Wow,
yeah.
that sounds cool.
Great. Well, we have more with Vernice, and we'll be right back.
High praise for Marine helicopter pilot back home from Iraq. Captain Vernice Armour is the first African-American woman to serve as a combat pilot in the history of the Marines. The Chicago native just got back from a second tour of duty.
She got a hero's welcome and is to be inducted into the Museum of National African American Military History. CBS 2's Derek Blakely reports.
Chicago-born Marine Captain Vernice Armour has been a cop, a pro football player, and now a combat pilot. But her ultimate goal is to uplift others.
Just to motivate the human spirit to do more, to find the passion and the purpose, and to go for it, because nothing's impossible. It really isn't.
Captain Armour was honored today by Lieutenant Governor Pat Quinn as the Marine Corps' first African-American female combat pilot. She's already served 2 tours in Iraq, and she's ready for more.
I'm not sure if I'm going to be going back or not, but if I am called back, I'm ready to serve again, just like I did the last 2 times.
Flying a Super Cobra attack helicopter, her job is one of the most essential and most dangerous in Iraq. Her father, a retired Army major, talked about his reaction after hearing her story about escorting a medevac chopper with another Super Cobra.
And they left out together, but the other one didn't come back, and she had bullets all riddled in her aircraft. And it just dawned, I knew that was going on, but just to hear her say that, it sent chills up my spine.
I probably put every gray hair in my dad's head, from me getting my motorcycle to, being a captain, wanting to be in the military, and then not just be in the military, but be an attack helicopter pilot.
And in accepting her honor, Armour also wanted to remember those she left behind.
And please, please, please do not forget about the troops that are still in Iraq and Afghanistan right now. They cannot be forgotten.
As a child, Captain Armour wanted to be a bodybuilder. She twice won the title of Camp Pendleton's Strongest Women, and she played football for the San Diego Sunfire in a women's professional league. All this, and she's only 29. Now, Antonio and Diane, she hopes her story of breaking barriers can inspire others. During her visit, Captain Armour visited Illinois' impoverished Pembroke Township and told the kids there that no one can limit their aspirations or their accomplishments. Coming from her and her tremendous achievements, I'm sure they'll listen. Thank you, Derek. Derek Blakely reporting from the CBS 2 control room.
Don't mess with the captain.
Welcome back. We're here with our guest, Vernice Armour, and Vernice is telling us about her professional speaking career. So, Vernice, tell us a little bit more about what you're doing. I understand you have a book coming out.
Right, it's going to be out in probably the next year, and it will be located on my website. And we can say that here, right? VerniceArmour.com, VerniceArmour, like Under Armour. So all one word, Vernice Armour. And I'm actually trying to do some community-related things as well in the area. In D.C., I'm going to be putting on a 4-week motivation leadership seminar in the city of D.C. somewhere. Not sure exactly where yet, but I believe if you're going around speaking to the corporations and the associations, well, you have to do something in the community, which is what I've always wanted to do. So, getting the sponsors, sometimes that's the hard part, but I think once people see what I'm really trying to do in the community, which is just help people get to the next level. What's your passion in life? What's itching to get out of you? What's that gift that God gave you? How are you supposed to use it? What's your purpose in your passion? How are you supposed to share it with everybody on the planet? And taking the positive steps to get there. Preparing for your passion and taking the positive steps and using it for that purpose. What legacy are we really leaving here on this planet? That's really what it's all about for me.
Wow. That's a book I want to read. I want to read it. You're motivating me just sitting here listening to you.
Good.
Sounds exciting.
So tell us a little bit more about your website and how people can get in contact with you.
Well, on the website again, it's www.VerniceArmour, VerniceArmour.com. If you can't remember that, you can just go to Google and put in Vernice Armour or First Black Female Combat Pilot, and things will pop up. Well, I mentioned that I do have 2 dads. My stepdad, Clarence Jackson, I don't even say stepdad, he's my dad. He raised me since I was 6 years old, and he was a Marine. And my father, Gaston Armour, and he lives in Chicago, which is where I was born. but I grew up in Memphis, and he has just, he's been a tremendous role model in my life as well. He gives me the philosophical side, if you will, and really just the positive talk. People say 80% of self-talk is negative. Well, he's really shown me how to blossom the positive side, and I really think that's what has helped me as well to overcome obstacles that, if any, have been in the path. But I have 2 dads, and some people weren't even blessed with one, so it's a blessing.
All right, well, that's it for today. Join us next time on the Top of the Morning. I'm Just Kumar.
And I'm Lil Bree.
Have a great day.
Sweet surprise. Her hands are never cold. She's got Betty Davis eyes. She'll turn the music on you. You won't have to think twice. She's pure as New York snow. She got Betty Davis eyes. And she'll tease you. She'll unease you, all the better just to please you. She's precocious, and she knows just what it takes to make a pro blush. She got Greta Garbo, stand outside. She's got Betty Davis eyes. She'll let you take her home.